tried, she won't come. She said it was in between, so this is you. So she'll step in. You don't have to come over here and sit down. Don't come sit down here. Just step back. They won't see my hand. You'll be fine. I'm standing right here.
May I have your attention, please?
Patience, hang on. They get quiet.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Logan Gegg. I am the president of St. Genevieve Middle School Student Council. I would like to welcome everyone to the Veterans Day Tribute Assembly. At this time, would everyone please turn off their cell phones so the assembly is not disrupted? Students, the purpose of this assembly is to honor our veterans for their dedication and willingness to fight for our freedom. This is a serious assembly, so please give these dedicated men and women the respect they deserve. We expect you to listen, think about what is being said, and remain quiet throughout the assembly.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natalie Engel. I'm the president of the St. Genevieve High School Student Council. I would also like to welcome everyone to the Veterans Day Tribute Assembly. Veterans, spouses, and guests, on behalf of the students, staff, and administration here at St. Genevieve, I would like to thank you for your attendance at this program. It is a true honor to have you here with us today. Would everyone please turn your attention to the flags on either side of the stage? These flags were obtained from the display in St. Louis on Art Hill. They represent two of the lives lost on September 11, 2001. William Edward McCule from the World Trade Center and Jamie Lynn Fallon from the Pentagon. I would like to introduce the VFW Post 2210 Color Guard for the presentation of the colors. Would everyone please stand and remain silent?
The national anthem will be performed for us today by Miss Abby Engelman.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I would like to call to the podium distinguished veteran Mr. Dale Probst, as well as Mr. Probst's grandchildren and St. Genevieve R2 students Anna Probst, Dale Probst, and Lydia Ketting. Mr. Probst, Anna, Dale, and Lydia will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to ask Mrs. Betty Arnold from the VFW Ladies Auxiliary Post 2210 to please recognize our veterans in attendance today.
We reflect on the blessings of our liberty and will never forget the veterans who paid the price for that freedom. We owe an eternal debt to our veterans who chose to set aside their ambitions and their dreams to assure the well-being of our great nation. To all of our veterans, we have a simple and heartfelt message. Thank you. Thank you for your unwavering service in peacetime and war here in this nation and throughout the world. It is my honor to introduce to you true heroes. As your name is called, please stand. World War II, Welton Gegg, Marvin Oddie. Ladies and gentlemen, your World War II veterans. The Korean War, Paul Jokerst, Bill Kreitler, Norman Stupi, Lester LaRose, Glennon Cabral, Clarence Hill, Marcine Bader, Robert Roth, Jerry Sadler, Irv Palmer. Ladies and gentlemen, the veterans of the Korean War. The Vietnam War, Stephen Miller, Edward Werner, John Buat, Marty Whitcuff, Dennis Grass, Larry Vogt, Paul Jokerst, Edward Schmelsley, Leon Sonny Meyer, Joe Sykes, Jim Otto, Donald Buat, Francisco Oren, William Gegg, Daniel Zerwig, Dale Probst, Art Papin, Bill Rayam, Mike Oddie, Art Armbruster, Ray Gettinger, Bob Seibel, Virgil Boyer, Robert Gusfin, Dennis Woke, Charles Hulvey, Robert Kohler, Paul Brishley, Lloyd Schweigert, Joe Lurk, Pete Papin. Ladies and gentlemen, the veterans of the Vietnam War. Afghanistan, Martin Hogue, Stephen Kimmel, the veterans of the Afghanistan War. Iraq, Ben Gretzmacher, Martin Hogue, Stephen Kimmel. Ladies and gentlemen, the Iraqi war veterans. Desert Storm, Gail Langen. Ladies and gentlemen, Desert Storm veteran. Our peacetime American veterans, Jonas Jokerst, Valentine Nager, Raymond Sparkman, Vincent Weiler, Jerome Valley, William Bosler, Brian Howren, who is active military, John Apt, and John Vogt, our peacetime American veterans. I would like to encourage every one of you students to take just a moment of your time, sometime this week, and meet a veteran. Perhaps it's a family member, perhaps it's a neighbor, perhaps it's someone you don't know. Just say hello and thank them for their service.
At this time, Armed Forces Salute will be performed by the St. Genevieve High School Concert Choir under the direction of Mrs. Michelle Jokerst.
Before the concert choir performs, I would like to recognize our accompanist, Mr. Tony Pelsu, who served in the Marine Corps, Operation Iraqi Freedom 1 and 2.
I would now like to recognize and call to the podium St. Genevieve High School juniors Thomas Engelman and Dylan Burr. Both of these young men wrote an essay titled My Vision for America and were entered into the VFW Voice of Democracy Scholarship this year. Thomas earned third place and Dylan took first place and will be moving on to compete at the national level. Thomas and Dylan will be reading their essays titled My Vision for America. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Thomas Engelman to the podium.
The future cannot be known, but it can be anticipated and changed. As of now, I believe the future of America is poor and a world I wish not to live in. As I walk the streets of St. Louis or any other city, I see people scattered on the streets like dead trees in the forest, waiting for a soul to gift them with the spare change from the bottoms of their pockets and purses, seeking for a place to lay their heads on a cold winter night, and praying for the next morsel of food they can sink their dirty teeth into. This image is sad in itself, yet if one looks closer, they will see a tattered cap that reads, Vietnam Veteran. This is why I believe the future of America is, to say the least, depressing. The respect that has been shown to the veterans of America has declined over the years. Since the Vietnam War, the American public has treated veterans poorly as they returned. These veterans became cast out by the people, society, and even the country they served. Many of them became homeless, and now, on a given American night, more than 60,000 veterans are without a place to rest. Whether we agree with the fighting in Vietnam or Iraq or Afghanistan, the men and women who served, who fought, and who died physically, mentally, and or spiritually deserve our respect. This is not to say numerous companies and organizations have not tried to help the veterans in this time of need, yet the ways of respect that have been shown have become somewhat questionable. Many sports teams don themselves with camouflage in respect for the veterans. One of the best, or should I say worst, contenders of this false respect was the Northwestern University football team with the help of the Wounded Warrior Project, a highly thought of program for the veterans. The uniforms, in a simple description, were American flags coated in blood. If this wearing of camouflage and spraying of fake blood is considered to be respectful, it may be the most superficial and inconsiderate form of respect there is. As a society, we choose to don clothing and sing songs instead of donating aid to the people who need it and earned it more than anyone else. Even present forms of aid, such as free health care, have decreased in funding, and the care that is attainable is nothing compared to the health care that one would normally hope to receive. This lack of respect and aid to the veterans of America is why I envision a sad dwarf of what America used to be. Despite this, we can change this terrible future by showing actual respect to the people who have served, and instead of spending our money on clothing for support, we can put it towards getting veterans off the streets.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dylan Burr to the podium.
America today, along with the things that drive Americans in society, has diverged far from the original plan the Founding Fathers in the original Constitution set up in 1776. In the early days of our country, compromises were used to solve most disputes, but in today's society, the Republican and Democratic parties have moved in almost opposite directions in their views and actions towards the country and how it should be run. The two parties will not work together in making compromises, which is the opposite of what was wanted by Washington in the early Constitution. America would also be a better place if more people would have character qualities like Washington and our veterans today. Veterans and George Washington are people who would always put others first and do what is right in the world. My vision for America is for it to be a place that George Washington hoped America would be, one that also includes more people similar to Washington and our veterans. George Washington was a person that would always put others first in everything he would do. When he served in the American Revolution, he suffered all the hardships his troops had to suffer. Washington lived in the troops' quarters, was on the front line when charging into battle, and stood out in the freezing cold at Valley Forge when his troops trained from dusk to dawn. He also knew that he was not the smartest person around and put people in the right positions in his cabinet to help with the decision-making. Veterans have similar qualities to George Washington because they put their country and other people first by doing what they do to protect our country. A better America includes more people with these qualities that do what they can to protect and help anyone. The neglected people that live on the streets could be reduced, along with veterans being recognized more than they currently are. I believe Washington envisioned America as a place in which people would keep his example alive that he set, and I think that would be a great foundation for the future of America. Being able to compromise in making decisions in government would also greatly improve its functioning and efficiency. In the times when the Constitution was first put into place, compromises were used. When George Washington was president, he had to put in place a plan about how the government would function. Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton had two different views from which Washington had to choose, and he ultimately chose Hamilton's economic plan, but compromised by giving Washington, D.C. to Jefferson in Southern Territory. There were also multiple compromises made during the time of slavery and the dawning of the Civil War, some of which were the Missouri Compromise, which settled disputes about whether a state was a slave or free state, the Three-Fifths Compromise, which settled a dispute on how African-American slaves should be included in state representation, and the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which repealed the Missouri Compromise and made a new system of voting on whether a state was free or included slavery. Today, the Democratic and Republican parties split views on multiple topics, like abortion, taxation, and how the government should use its power. There is either a strict Republican view in society or a strict Democratic view, and neither wants compromise in their beliefs. If the two parties would allow for compromise to happen, the system of making decisions could be more efficient and quick. Instead, the two try beguiling each other, and our regime becomes a massive welter. If the ideas and qualities of George Washington could be replicated in America today, our nation would be pushed to an even higher level than it already is. In America, with more people like our veterans and our first and greatest president, George Washington, would improve the lives of many unfortunate people. Others would not think of themselves as much as they do today, and they would think more, and they would give more support to the poor and less fortunate. In America, with a regime that is able to work around issues, would improve its quality and efficiency in itself. Decisions could actually be made instead of one party trying to work against the other. This America is the vision I have for the future. This can be accomplished and would require a large amount of work, but the effort would be worth the struggle. And this culmination, in the end, would massively improve America.
It is now my pleasure to welcome to the podium for our patriotic commentary Mr. Brian Howren. Mr. Howren is the brother of faculty member Mrs. Melissa Otto and served in the United States Air Force since 1992. During his service, Senior Master Sergeant Howren completed assignments in Spain, Korea, Panama, Italy, Bahrain, Turkey, Missouri, Washington, D.C., Louisiana, and Nebraska. Senior Master Sergeant Howren is currently the Superintendent of Operations, Team 2 of the National Airborne Operations Center of Air Force Base in Omaha, Nebraska. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podium Senior Master Sergeant Howren.
General Headquarters, Southwest Pacific Area, June 28, 1944. Dear Mr. Massey, I cannot express to you the poignancy of my regret at the death of your son, Private First Class John H. Massey. His service under me was characterized by his complete devotion to our beloved country, and his noble death integrates him with its imperishable glory. I have lost a gallant comrade in arms. With you mourn a splendid gentleman. Very faithfully, Douglas MacArthur. Where's my sister's class? Stand up. I want to see you guys. They're doing public speaking. That's an attention step. I've got your attention now. You guys use that. Both sides of the room. Can you guys stand up for me, please? Both sides. Stand up. Put your hands together, because these are your heroes right here. See, yeah, you got to sit down because I'm on a timeline. Lois is back here going clock already. Good afternoon. My name is Senior Master Sergeant Brian Howard, and it is truly an honor for me to be here with you today. I'm sure you're asking yourself, why am I listening to this guy? Well, the answer, one of them, has already been told to you, because I'm Melissa Otto's brother, and you all know that. That's how that works. And there will be some humor in here, so a little laughter is good. You got to give me some feedback, because Veterans Day is a celebration of these people. It's not Memorial Day. We celebrate what they've done for us. The second thing, the other reason you have to listen to me is because I have a microphone and you don't. Okay, so you're stuck with me for a little bit, 10, 15 minutes. So I'm going to bore you with the first part of my speech because I like to do that, and then I get you riled up at the end. So I have a question for you, and it's, what do you think of when I say the term war? We've heard it in here already. I want you to think about that, what you think about in the history books, and what you see from CNN. And see, my brother-in-law's over here taking pictures. Did you build this podium? Because it's blocking me, and I look good today. So Webster's dictionary states that war is a conflict carried on by force of arms as between nations or between parties within a nation. A state or period of armed hostility or active military operations. And this one's my favorite, and we're going to come back to this a couple of times. A contest carried on by force as in a series of battles or campaigns. I know you're thinking, seriously, this guy's going to talk to me about war? Well, yeah, it's Veterans Day, that's what I'm talking about, and I'm in uniform, so that's what's going to happen. So when you think about it, you think of World War II, the Korean conflict, Vietnam, Desert Storm, global war on terrorism, Afghanistan, Iraq, these things that you see in the news all the time. And we do that because we're programmed that way. We're programmed to think tactfully, to see that small blip on television, and that's what we gain. Actually, war of any kind is waged and won through strategy. Your brain is the starting point of all strategy, and how you feel, where you are mentally, will affect your strategy. We have to study our history and understand it. However, if you're stuck in the past, then your ability to be creative is stifled, and old strategies can fail. What worked yesterday may not work today. You must live in the present. Allow your mind to be free of things that will hinder you. Clarity is the key to success. No amount of proactivity can prepare you for the chaos of life, for the unbelievable possibilities that lie within each moment in time. But clarity of a problem, let's call it mental fluidity, I like that term, will aid in quick actions to rectify the problem and solve any situation that you're in. My favorite reference to this is a movie called The Love of the Game. Anybody seen that? It's a baseball movie. I know there's a bunch of St. Louis fans out here, and I apologize for that. That movie was fantastic to me because he had all these things swirling around in his life, and he had a statement that he used. He always said, clear the mechanism. And you'd see in the movie where he focused in on the problem. The distractors in his life, things that swirled in his head, caused him to lose that focus. He overcame those distractors by utilizing a focus mechanism. Clear the mechanism. You see, the genius of these men and women, these veterans, our men and women in the profession of arms, lies in the ability to respond to the most stressful of circumstances. to make the most of what we are given, to clarify and react to any situation we're in. These men and women are the most supreme of opportunists. Now, I want you to think about that term war, and I want you to consider a different perspective of it. I want to apply it to you each and every day. Remember my long, drawn-out Webster's Dictionary version? That's not what I want you to think about. I want you to think about my favorite one. War is a contest carried on by force, as in a series of battles or campaigns. Internal conflict is nothing more than internal warfare. It can be the most violent, it can be the most devastating warfare in existence. Life is the most intensive warfare you may ever face. It's a series of battles that make a war. Win or lose ends in death. That's just the fact. But it is also the absolute most rewarding. I know what you're thinking. How does this apply to me? You see, I believe each and every one of you are warriors. We're all at war, and little victories are available to each and every one of you every day, right around the corner. How difficult was it for you to get out of bed this morning? I've had days where it was one of the most difficult things for me to do, and my parents are sitting right here, and you can ask them. They had to wake me up quite a few times to go to school. Now, you think that sounds funny, getting out of bed in the morning. But think of these men and women right here. Think of them on the battlefield every day, no break in the action. Now getting out of bed is a little bit more difficult to get up and defend each and every one of us. You will find yourself facing many difficult situations, and how you face these challenges is completely up to you, but it will determine your fate. Think of yourself as always preparing to engage the enemy in battle. That test this week, that band performance, that football game, everything depends on your focus and clarity of thought. The ability to clarify can change you from a confused mercenary to the most dangerous of warriors. The greatest conflict of all is the internal battle within yourself. Your weakness, your emotions, your lack of resolution to see things through to the end are all hurdles that you must overcome. You must declare war on yourself. As a warrior in life, you must welcome combat and conflict as ways to prove yourself, to better your skills, to gain courage, confidence, and experience. Instead of hiding from your fears, you must face them down and do battle with them. You want more challenges, and you invite more war. You are forging a warrior spirit, and only constant practice, continually facing your battles, will lead you to victory. I'd like to leave you with a couple of parting shots, food for thought. These men and women who have defended you and given you so much have given so much to our country. They don't do it for medals. They don't do it for notoriety. They do it for each and every one of you. They did it to defend a way of life, ensure that you had the opportunity to teach, to learn, and to make choices every day in your lives. We have a military saying, each of us like to be the tip of the spear, razor sharp, at the point of impact. It's important to us to have that feeling. But I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell each and every one of my airmen. You're not that spear. You're not the tip. You're not that sharp razor's edge. You see, you are the hand that wields it. You take that knowledge, the spear of knowledge, and you go from here. You take everything from your teachers, and you wield that weapon mightily. Do so with dignity and honor, because this is the choice that's been given to you by our veterans. This is what they've done for each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senior Master Sergeant Howland, both for your service and your commentary here today. The St. Genevieve High School Women's Choir will now perform America the Beautiful under the direction of Mrs. Michelle Jokerst.
Our soloist is Rochelle Apt.
Mrs. Lois Fligg, member of the VFW Ladies Auxiliary Post 2210 and retired St. Genevieve R2 teacher, will now recognize our local distinguished veterans who have recently passed away.
Maybe it's the neighbor who waves every day, the biker at the gas station, or the lady who greets you at the store. Maybe it's a matter-of-fact auto mechanic who works on your truck, or the young mother laughing with her kids at the park. No matter where they are, they're among us, an elite group of individuals known as veterans. They risk their lives and sacrifice precious years with their families to protect not just the freedom and safety we Americans enjoy, but to help others in faraway lands. The date of November 11th has been officially set aside as Veterans Day. Unlike Memorial Day, which honors military personnel who died in service to their country or as a result of injuries incurred during battle, Veterans Day is a day to honor living veterans. Parades and celebrations will be held throughout the week. What a nice surprise it would be for veterans at these events if they were greeted by a crowd of cheering, flag-waving people showing support for their unsung efforts. It would only take a few minutes out of our day, nothing compared to the time they spent serving our country. Speaking only of myself, I'm ashamed of how many times I've failed to thank a veteran. It's not like I haven't had opportunities. They come along every day. It's not that I don't appreciate the sacrifices they've made. It's just that I don't think. I've always lived in a free country where, for the most part, I don't worry about being attacked by U.S. enemies. I've never had the threat of being ripped from my home, watching my town being destroyed, or loved ones imprisoned or killed. I take it for granted that every day I'll wake up and be free and safe to do whatever I need or want to do. To whom do I owe this privilege? Veterans. From the Revolutionary War clear up to present day. John F. Kennedy once said, "As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not only to alter words, but to live by them." Earlier, I called the veterans an elite group, and I meant it. To all veterans, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I would like to direct your attention to the table in front of the podium. Each flag in the white wreath represents a local veteran we have lost since our program last year. I would like to recognize those 40 veterans at this time. Joseph Beckley, November 12th. Cletus Giesler, November 15th. Larry Pettis, Jr., November 29th. Edward Herbst, November 30th. Herbert Seibel, December 3rd. Richard Misplay, December 17th. Larry Mosier, December 23rd. Ralph Rodenmeyer, December 30th. Esco Ellis, December 31st. Larry Odell, January 7th. Roy Clark Jr., January 11th. Arthur Vaith, January 15th. John Munton, January 19th. Richard Hogue, January 27th. Jules Brown, February 8th. Oliver Geck, February 20th. Barry Jones, February 21st. Victor Jokerst, March 15th. Vernon Bader Sr., March 29th. W. Frank Arnold, April 6th. Raymond Schweigert, April 7th. Frank Kemp, May 28th. Vincent Stolzer, June 2nd. Ralph Portell Sr., June 8th. Kenneth Raymer, June 12th. Patrick Dahl, June 22nd. Glennon Bates Jokerst, June 29th. Walter Stormy Crawford, July 17th. John Boyette, August 13th. Arthur Bud Cole, August 21st. Paul L. Bowman, August 23rd. Edgar Mueller, August 31st. Harvey Roth, September 2nd. Kenneth Bergert, September 2nd. Robert Schaff, September 8th. Richard Wyke, September 17th. Matt Ringwald, September 17th. Clement Geck, September 20th. Richard Ellis, September 20th. Joseph Lamandier, October 24th. Let us please honor these departed veterans with a moment of silence. Thank you.
Members of the VFW Post 2210 will now conduct the moment of silence in the three-gun volley. Students, there will be shots fired during the three-gun volley. Please do not scream or laugh during this presentation. Immediately following the three-gun volley, St. Genevieve band members Mr. Gage Wiegand and Trey Humphreys will perform taps.
Middle School Advanced Choir will now perform God Bless America.
Let us all be grateful for a land so fair.
Please welcome to the podium Representative Kevin Engler.
Thank you. I'm what they call filler. Chaos will ensue if we get out before 3. Every year I come over here and I'm very impressed with not only our veterans, we appreciate them, but the respect shown by the students of this district. Thank you. Thank you. Now, as your state senator for 8 years, I went around and spoke at a lot of veteran ceremonies, especially at schools. I try to talk about what it was like, and the gentleman here talked about war. Last month, I went to Roy Clark's funeral. Now, usually I talk about a bunch of different people and give examples, but things were different. Roy was born in Libertyville out in the middle of the country, south of Farmington, about 20 miles. They didn't have running water or bathrooms. Lived on a farm. Didn't have a car until he was 10 years old. But at 17 years old, his life changed. He'd never been out of the county. It wasn't like we travel now and go to St. Louis on the weekends, or go here, go to Memphis, go to Cape. He never went out of the county, only went to Farmington rarely, and went to a movie, he told me, twice in his life before. At 17, his life changed. The Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, and all able-bodied men that could went in the Army. He was a junior, 5'5", not a very big person, went in the Army. Landed at Normandy. Can you imagine? This is a time before email. This is a time before Skype. This is a time before you could just fax some information or get on the phone with somebody, or back then they sent what they called telegrams that somebody had to deliver to you. He read one of those telegrams. Well, Roy landed at Normandy, walked across Europe carrying a backpack and a rifle and shooting and doing what normal Army guys do, you see on Private Ryan. It's tough to believe the pressure of a 17-year-old. Some of you are 17, right? Can you imagine going into a winter outside, one of the coldest winters in Europe's history, and in the Battle of the Bulge, where our supply lines were cut off, and there were men out there for weeks in the cold, some below zero. The Germans were having a counteroffensive. They were bombing. They were in a forest. He told me they were in a forest. You couldn't even see the sky. It was so thick of trees until they started nighttime bombing. And what they had to do is dig the frozen ground with their little shovel, chopping away at the frozen ground, trying to make a hole big enough to get down, because when the bombs would explode in the tops of the trees, the shrapnel would kill everything in sight. So you wanted to be below ground. But it's tough to dig with a shovel this size every night, trying to dig through frozen tundra to get down low enough so that you wouldn't die. Can you imagine at 17 years old the sacrifice that you made? He told me the only way he got through it, he said the Our Father over and over and over and over while the bombs went off, praying to God he wouldn't die that night, knowing that in the morning one of his colleagues or more would have died, were blown apart. Repeatedly, night after night after night, during the day they'd have armed conflict with being overrun in parts and shootouts with the enemy, until finally they ran out of food. They didn't have any fires. You couldn't light a fire because your enemy would know your target. They had no warmth. This went on for days. Men got frostbite, lost fingers, toes. They couldn't get outside of the weather. They couldn't get out of the foxholes most nights. He said after a week or so, there was no forest left because the bombs had blown all the trees tops off. And they were out of ammunition and out of food. And eventually their platoon got overrun and taken as a prisoner of war. Now, Roy's mom was back home in Libertyville. She got the dreaded, if you were injured, you got a telegram if your son was injured. If they had died, you got an official visit with a car. And she saw the car coming up the road. Got out and said, your son is missing, presumed dead. Well, Roy was taken to a POW camp, and you see films of the POW camps. He had to go to 3 different POW camps. As we were pushing the Germans back, they had to keep moving him. He got down to 70 pounds. 70 pounds. Because the Germans didn't even have food for themselves at this point, much less food for the POWs. He survived. And he told me he was so thin when he survived, they gave him a uniform, and the only 2 things that fit was his handkerchief and his tie, because everything else was too big. They don't make uniforms for 70-pound people. That's the sacrifice he made, but he still couldn't call home and say, Mom, I'm not really dead. He didn't even know she thought he was dead. He still had to go all the way across Europe, had to be transported by boat back. Things weren't as quick. They didn't get any time off. And I asked Roy, I said, well, what did your mom say when she found out? How'd she find out you were alive? He said, when I opened the front gate and walked through the front gate, my mom came out on the porch. I said, what'd she say? She said, she didn't say anything, she fainted. She thought I was dead for months. Can you imagine the sacrifice that the people at home made? I tell you this because I usually tell stories about our veterans. These veterans in front of you, only 2 of them were in the World War II, but some of them fought in the jungles of Vietnam, where they got foot rot, where it rained constantly, where they might have had to go into tunnels to try to crawl through tunnels, dark tunnels, and shoot and kill the enemy and drag them back or blow up the tunnels. They might have been in Desert Storm. I know our troops, the 1038 in Farmington, their mission was to dismantle roadside bombs. Can you imagine going up and trying to take a bomb apart, risking your life? The sacrifices that these men and women made for you and what Roy Clark made for you during times of war is huge. I want you to think about that when you think about veterans and Veterans Day. She said that you ought to get to know a veteran. At least go up and thank a veteran for the service that they've given you. And I want you to know that there wasn't that many people at Roy's funeral. He was 90-something years old. He outlived most of his friends. But the Patriot Guard was there because they remembered. And I want you to remember. Don't let Roy Clark's sacrifice die with him. Understand the sacrifice and the commitments that these men and women made for you in the past and continue to make for you overseas and wherever we are fighting terrorism today. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention.
The VFW Post 2210 Color Guard will now retire the colors.
This concludes our Veterans Day tribute ceremony. We would like to thank all of the veterans and their spouses for taking time out of their busy schedules today to attend the ceremony. Thanks to the choir programs for their contributions today. We would also like to thank the students and staff for their attention and participation in the program. A special thanks to Mrs. Sharon Fowler and Mrs. Diane Miller for planning and organizing the 2015 Veterans Day Tribute Program.
Middle school students, you will exit the gym through the doors to your right. Ms. Giesler will dismiss a section at a time. Please be patient. You will go through the high school to the commons area.